After 4 years and 250 YouTube videos about griddling, I have made a lot of mistakes. About 2 years ago, I did a similar video to this, but I figured it was time to update it for the brand new griddle owners because I have a couple things that have changed. First being seasoning. That's the first question I get from new griddle owners. The general process is add a thin layer of oil, turn this thing all the way to high, burn it off, add another thin layer of oil, burn it off, and you do that, I don't know, 3 to 5 times until you create a seasoning. But they always ask, what oil should I use on the griddle? Well, let me tell you what Blackstone recommends. They sell more griddles than anybody else. They recommend their seasoning, canola oil, vegetable oil, olive oil, flaxseed oil, and shortening. I always forget that one, shortening. So the 3 that I've personally used are canola, I've used the Blackstone seasoning, and I used avocado oil, which is a vegetable oil, I think. So they all worked fine. All of them worked fine. As for the other 3, I'm sure they work fine too. So it's really just a preference thing. I would pick one of those 6 and go ahead and use it. I don't think there's any secret seasoning. If you get online and you get in Facebook groups, a lot of people are gonna tell you there is, and that's fine. I'm just telling you from my experience, they all seem to work out fine. Currently I use a lot of avocado oil, but they all worked fine. Cleaning is the second question I get the most, and it's how do you clean this thing? Is it hard to clean? It's not terribly difficult. Basically, when you're done cooking, I turn it all the way down to low, squirt on some water, scrape it all down, wipe it off, and then add some oil, turn it off, and I'm good to go. The oil will help protect it from rust or, discoloration. Full disclosure, my griddle's not perfect. None of them have been. Some people have very perfect black griddles. Mine always get some different spots. It's just part of griddling in my opinion. So if you want a perfect griddle, I mean, you can really burn off a coat each time, but I'm not as concerned with that. Also, do I do this full like water, scrape down, wipe down oil process every time? No, I don't. Like, I'm just being honest. If I'm doing pancakes and that's it for my family, even sometimes where I've just done like an omelet or 2, that doesn't really mess up the seasoning. I don't feel the need to like scrape the whole thing down. I wipe it off, turn the griddle off and go. Now, if I'm doing a bunch of hamburgers or sausage or potatoes with a bunch of seasoning or something sticky with a sauce, yeah, I'm doing the full cleaning process. I don't want to leave that on the griddle, so I'm using the water. Water brings us to our third thing, which is warping. Can you warp your griddle? A lot of people are obviously concerned with that because you just bought this and you don't want to ruin it. And yeah, you can. You can definitely warp your griddle if you go from extreme lows to extreme highs. That's what I did when I put down a 5-pound log of partially frozen beef onto like a smoking hot griddle. It was like probably almost 475 degrees, and the whole right side started coming up and it started making this loud noise, and I was scared. And yeah, it's scary because you think you're gonna break your brand new griddle. And after I turned it off, it evened itself out and it was fine after that. So, but Blackstone recommends, let me read you exactly what they say from their website. Okay, I got the laptop because there's no way I was memorizing this. It says, some ways to prevent warping are, do not add large quantities of very cold or frozen food to a hot griddle top. Yeah, okay. Sounds like they're talking about me. Then it says, do not pour water over a hot griddle top. When you need to use water for cleaning, use small and concentrated amounts of water to prevent heat shocking the griddle surface. What they're saying is not to use a lot of water and not to do it when it's very, very hot. That's why I said turn it to low when you're cleaning. So you can use water on the griddle. You just don't want to have it up to 500 and then you dump a bunch of water down. I mean, it's going to shock it and it could warp. So basically the whole way to avoid warping is huge jumps from hot to cold or cold to hot, vice versa. So keep that in mind. If it's really hot and you try to put something really cold on there, that's how it can warp. Number 4 is accessories. This one's dirty because I just used it. You don't need a ton of accessories. Really, honestly, all you need to get started are 2 spatulas, tongs, and squirt bottles. That's it. Those are the mandatory accessories to start cooking with. Now, do I own a ton of accessories? Yes, I have a problem. I own a bunch of them. Are you gonna see other videos from me where I'm talking about accessories? Yes, so I don't want to be called like a hypocrite because I am going to talk about accessories I like. I just want to be honest, you don't have to get them all. Don't wait to start cooking. Don't feel like you need to run out and buy them you can do pretty much everything with just those accessories. So if you want to get all the toys, I got all the toys you can, but to start with 2 spatulas, preferably one with a beveled edge that is kind of angled so you can get under stuff. tongs, and then the squirt bottles. Side note on the squirt bottles, people ask a lot, oh, can you get a good one? Mine stink, they start to leak, this, that, and the other. I haven't been able to find really good ones. You know, they're dirt cheap. I get them, usually after 3 to 4 months, they stop working very well, and then I just buy another one. So, I mean, because they're cheap. I hate to be wasteful, but I can't find great ones, so I just keep buying new ones. Next tip is temperature control. So you do need an infrared thermometer, in my opinion. I didn't include it as one of the necessary accessories, because I guess you can start without it and you can kind of feel your way around the griddle, but it would be the very next accessory that I would buy, because it's so helpful to learn your griddle with an infrared thermometer, learn the different temperatures, what temperature do you want it to be at, what temperature to cook certain foods at. So, I mean, I would get that. Also, speaking of temperatures, because I kind of touched on this, I don't like to preheat on high because these things get really hot. So I usually just preheat it on low, wait 5 to 10 minutes, check it, make sure it's where I want, then start cooking. So don't preheat on high and don't walk away. If you turn to medium high and you walk away for 15 minutes, you're gonna skyrocket to like way hotter than you want it to be for whatever you're cooking on the griddle. I usually shoot for like 375 to 400 for general cooking, but we'll go over that a little more later. Next, we got the sides of the griddle here. They'll get hot, okay? So like right here, let me show you where we're at here. You see right here on the sides of the griddle, they're gonna get hot, okay? So if you put your plastic bottle right here, it's gonna melt. It is. If you put, like you have your eggs in plastic, like container that you scrambled them in, I've done that, I melted that like multiple times. Anything else, if you forget about, you put it here, it's gonna melt. So keep it off to the side or get some hooks or something, but don't put anything too close because it's gonna push out a lot of heat on the side. Tip number 7 is zone cooking. So make sure you have a big griddle, you utilize different temperature zones. So you could have this one pretty hot up above 400, and then you could have the other half of the griddle lower around like 325. So say like, you know, you're gonna toast your buns over there or do your eggs over there, but you're gonna cook your bacon and potatoes over here. So, you know, utilize different zone cooking. Don't be scared to turn off some burners if you need to. Sometimes I'll have the 2 middle burners on and then the 2 outside burners off. That way I can move stuff in and out of the hot zone. So just, you know, get used to finding out where your zones are and adjusting your griddle accordingly to utilize the big space so it's not all the same temperature. You don't have to always be the same temperature. So for example, if I'm doing like breakfast, like I said, I do bacon and potatoes and I get those done and I slide them off to the side. Maybe I just turn that outside burner off while I go ahead and finish up the pancakes and the eggs. So utilize the different zones for zone cooking. So speaking of zone cooking and learning your griddle, that brings us to number 8, which is find the hot spots of your specific griddle. All of them are manufactured differently. They all have different hot and cool spots. The ones I've used have been pretty good about being even heating, but it's never perfect. So what I recommend doing is a toast test where you get a bag of white bread, you turn it on to medium, low, medium, you put the bread down and you just let it sit there for like 5 to 10 minutes, then you flip it over and it gives you a visualization of where the hot spots are on your griddle. So when you're cooking in the future, you can know, oh, this spot's hotter and this spot's cooler, and I can move the food around appropriately. Again, just kind of like the zone cooking. So do a toast test, worth $1.50 to waste a bag of white bread by putting it on there. So I would highly recommend that. We're inside for our next tip because this is where this tip starts, and that's prepping ahead. So you always should prep ahead, you know, when you're cooking, and that's something I'm terrible at, but the griddle really forces you to prep ahead because you get outside, then you have to run back inside, or you're yelling at your wife, you're like, bring me out some more onions, which that's not a good way for a, you know, healthy marriage. So prepping ahead is important with griddling because you're doing pretty much all the cook outside most of the time, and using pans, like I just use the cookie sheets that I have. You can go buy a specific pan to put all your food on, or like a container for all your food to bring it out to prep with, but I think cookie sheets work. Most people already have them, and you just kind of pretend you're at a Japanese steakhouse. You see them walking out and they got everything on there all ready to go, prepped up, veggies, meat, seasonings, oils, whatever it is. So sauce as well. So always prep ahead. It's good to kind of look over your recipe and do it inside, and then bring it all outside with you, and it's ready to just go ahead and whip it up on the griddle. And my final tip is cooking order. You always want to cook whatever takes the longest first, okay? And then whatever takes the shortest last. So we'll go back to breakfast like I was saying earlier, which is we'll start with our potatoes and our bacon down first because it's going to take the longest. If you start with your eggs, they're going to finish and everything else isn't going to be done and they're going to be cold or overcooked or whatever. So you want to follow the cooking order. So like in breakfast, I go potatoes, meat, then I'll do pancakes, and then I'll do eggs and maybe some toast if I'm toasting it up on the griddle top. So the cooking order and the temperatures are the two most important things. I told you earlier about temperatures, so like I like to do eggs between 300 and 325. I do my general cooking between 375 and 400. Anything that's searing, I do above 400, 450. So that's like your smash burgers, your steak. Both the cooking order and the temp chart and 5 free recipes I got below. If you sign up for my newsletter, it comes out every weekend. I just send free recipes and tips about griddling. It's like a 2-minute read. I really think it's helpful. I think the free ebook that comes with it is the most helpful thing. It's everything I just went over basically for a new griddle owner. So if you're interested in that, sign up below, and every Saturday or Sunday I just send it, usually a free recipe and a quick tip about griddling. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good one. Congratulations to everyone who just got a griddle.